Alrighty, so here we are with the rocket. This is the first rocket I'm gonna launch, but I also usually only do one rocket launch, um, because this is I can't enter it anymore. I can't enter it at all, so I can't get in. But in reality, I'd be in there taking off. So we'll watch the rocket launch, and then I'll kind of run into what my thoughts are for Spaceblock and kind of tips and tricks I've got along the way. So bye rocket, bye real body of us. Hopefully, we can't have a fish, so I can't send it up to space. Woo! I killed one wooden chest. That is all. Oh wow, cool. I finished two other things. Anyways, so this is a very messy design. Can you tell I forgot about rocket fuel until the very end and had to rebuild another oil? Yeah, so it's a very messy design, but it's a really fun thing, and that's another thing I'm going to have to talk about that I forgot about. Landfill, because that's super important. So Spaceblock, there's not a huge amount of things that they add. They add these duplications. So one of which is bootstrapping. This is how you start. You get your first 5 iron, first 5 copper, coal, stone, uranium. You can get crude oil and wood. Then there's this landfill recipe, automation and landfill. We'll talk about that. And then they actually have the duplication. So for 5 seconds and 5 ingredients going in, you get 6 coming out. That works the same for coal, copper, iron, stone, crude oil, which is down here. This is my first oil. It's actually, sorry, let's just look at it. 125 in, 175 out. So each one of those is making an extra 50 every single time. And then, yeah, then there's uranium ore, which is actually one thing I haven't done on this playthrough. Now, there is some other recipes. Let's just check it out. We're there. So you can actually make space. It takes so much ingredients. And I don't know. Oh, wow. Walking speed, 250%. Yeah, okay, I can see why you might want to make that. Even though this is 140. Yeah, so over double speed. Okay, makes sense. I didn't see that walking speed before. I was just like, why would you want to make this purple concrete? Water, because you actually need water. Because if you're going to do power, you need water. You start out with actually, I think you start out with 20 or you start out with 40. I've actually only used 32, so I've never made the water, but you can. Concrete and landfill. Total sense why that makes water. So that's that. And I think, do we have one? No, let's just jump in here. I think this one might have a difference. Oh, yeah. Just the uranium ore has to be done there. Oh, no, this is lube. This lube. Anyways, so for my tips and tricks for Spaceblock. Number 1, solar is your friend. There was actually a conversation I had with, I believe his name was, their name, you can't tell on Reddit, about a lot of the Spaceblock. And we came to the thing where I was building all solar, and they went and built a lot of the power conduits here. Way down here, conduits. The normal steam, water-powered based power, coal burning, and whatnot. Now, they said something, and I agree with it, and it's basically like your solar gets 100% used for 100% of the power it produces goes into building, right? If that makes sense. Whereas if you look at coal, if you're creating 1 coal a second, which I have some coal, so from 4 megajoules, 4 megajoules, some of that has to come down and run power. Now, however much power you're burning has to go back into making coal. So that 4 megajoules is, you're not actually making, that isn't 100% going. So this conversion is better if you're going pure solar. So that's why I went solar. And the nice thing is, once you get robots, it's very easy to lay down huge tracts of land. I know a lot of people have their own blueprints. I actually just made this one up on the fly, but I have my own blueprint for solar stuff. Like I have a whole bunch of different blueprints. Like I have that blueprint I created myself in the middle of a stream. Like it's easy. You can stamp it, and since you can also do it nice and easily with tiles, boom, you just slap it down and go to town. Check back on it in 5 minutes and slap it down again, maybe. So yeah, solar I think is the absolute way to go on this type of map, or on Spaceblock. But I can see the appeal of if you can just go hardcore coal, water, and just make tons and tons of blocks of that power, it's totally viable. However, let's just check out what my power looks like. I've been going, actually I think we're in about 20 hours, 28 hours? Is what where we started? Yeah, 28-ish hours. I've been primarily solar the entire time. Well, you start out with some solar steam engines, and it was about the 8 to 10 hour I finally did a full switch over. And basically, if you can rush solar panels and then accumulators, you're golden. So that's my suggestion, is to do that, because then you start using much less coal, so you don't need to use it as much, and it can all go into plastic. So that's kind of my first tip. Use solar. Use solar as much as you can. Second one, you probably saw me running through these already, and I'm like, what the hell is this design? So this is my personal design on, there's no ore patches up in space. I mean, it'd be really cool if they had done like meteors with some ore, like an actual ore patch, so you actually had to do some mining and maybe feed it in. But this is my design, so let's just copy this out. Now I started out with huge long blocks of these in the gray assemblers, but we're now not using gray assemblers. I'm actually up to creating them in yellow. Oh, I don't actually, screw it, whatever. Let's just upgrade all that so my stuff gets done. Do it. Okay. So the way it works is pretty straightforward up until here. So that's why I'm going through it. I'm trying to isolate it. So here's our output. We want all of the free ore to come out. This needs one in here, and can we just make this easy for me? I should have thought ahead, shouldn't I? There we got power, and let's pull some ore in. Now, what's really cool is all you need in reality is 5, and you can start seeding it. And if you look at the way I have it set up, it always goes back in. So the moment this one actually finishes reseeding and has enough for a second one, then it starts the second one. Anyways, let's really get this going. Do I have more copper? Yeah. It's actually a pretty quick after you're done. So anyways, it comes through, goes all the way around, and then gets put on the top. Now the top comes out and gets stopped by the splitter, right? Everybody's done this, so you want only half. Now, why this is so useful is the moment it gets stopped, everything else gets shoved in. Now, once you start getting really packed, you can't see it, but let's check out this one since I pulled from it. So almost everything is getting pushed to the top. However, when you start really getting full again, i.e. over here, the ones that don't get pushed to the top or can't go through the top, up here, through here, and get pushed out. I don't know why this one, there we go, there's one. So with 7, I should be getting 7 divided by 5 is 1.2. 1.2 a second? That sounds a little bit low. 1.2 a second. No, that sounds about right. In reality, what is it? This, as blue for all of this, was feeding one singular line before. So it was almost 75 there. Oh yeah, I think I grabbed it a little bit too high. But yeah. Oh, Control Z. Whoop. Actually, we can just check out over here. I have multiple blocks, and you're gonna need multiple blocks to do space to do Spaceblock. So this is been running pretty constantly. This is what, 76, 82, and we're using most of a block. I probably should lane balance this a little bit better, but I needed copper. So yeah, I think this is my design. There's also a design. It was actually Emerald as well. They had it slightly different. They just had the two, and you can just use boxes. And then this, I think, is pretty straightforward. And you can just have one pulling out and putting onto a line outside. So this works as a little unit. I think you would understand how that works. And then you just have, your line here and a logic. So once you get to logic, it's nice and easy to do. There's obviously, depending on what mods you're using, you can do different things. I didn't want to use that because the amount of power needed to do, for that one, 2 machines would have 6 blue inserters. I have 2 yellow inserters for 1 machine. So way less power. Most of my game is always about limiting power. And that brings us to the number 3 tip I have for you. Efficiency modules are your absolute, are an absolute lifesaver. If we look through power, can we go back to power? Can we see? That's 1 hour. So assembly machine 2s, assembly machine 3s. Right there. There's a good example. Where's my 3s? This is me dropping in 31 megajoules down back to 23. And that's because they're getting upgraded immediately with level 2 efficiency modules. So it's a huge boon if you're only taking, what is it, 20%? 20% of the power. Huge boon. So yeah, I've actually, if we run down my line again, you probably notice it on the start. It's, where'd it go? Oh, it's down here. It's far down the line because I kept moving it back and moving it back. I've just had this going constantly. I think this has been going for 12, 15 hours. And, well, it was first just this one. And then it was 4 of them. And then I moved this one over to a single and pulled the one sending me. And just, had the one pulling and sending to me. Because I could just easily drop them in much quicker. But now it's feeding, of course, this one. The level 2 efficiencies. So yeah, if you can, I always espouse just how useful efficiency modules are. And anytime you're playing a size limited place and like here a power limited, they are amazing. In my Warp Torio games, I have them shoved into everything I can get. I actually have the main power beacon with 4 of them in it immediately. Just because the amount of power is drastic. How much. And actually, from a gray up to a blue, it's... Do we have a gray just sitting around? Hurry up. Come on. You're slowing down my demonstration. Gray. Gray uses 77.5. This is using 65. You can use less power with blues than with grays, and they work half again as fast. They work 150% of the speed. Totally worth it. Get your efficiency modules going as soon as possible when playing Spaceblock. That is what I have to say. The other one is, as you've probably noticed me running around my various scattered blocks, solid fuel, steel furnaces. Normal game, most people just keep on plugging in coal. I'm exactly the same. Solid fuel, it's basically free fuel. Like, because you have to do something, right? You have a bunch of light oil. You have a ton of petroleum. It's just sitting there. You might as well use it if you've got it. And if you'll probably have a better, I don't do a great oil setup. I'm still in that phase of I don't like oil. It sucks, but it's life. You got to deal with it. But yeah, solid fuel. I did the switch over to that. The power drain from this block, because coal was basically not being used because we weren't making that many red chips and weren't using that many red chips. So these weren't working either. So there was almost no draw from power from this entire block of coal. It was fantastic. So yeah, I would definitely suggest moving over to solid fuel because it's there. You have 2 of these running using 49 kilowatts instead of all of those running, which is what, 7, 14, 28 at 66. It's a little bit cheaper for power. Again, back to that whole power thing. Robots. Oh my good lord. Do you know how tiring making one of these was? Running down, switching over to accumulators, running it down, running that down, running. It was exhausting. Don't do it. Power to solar, power straight up to accumulators, and then aim directly for robots with nothing else stopping you. Saves your anus so much. So nice. So amazing. So great. I mean, that's every game. Everybody likes to rush them, but it's super important here. Now you'll see this doodad. As you can see, these don't have efficiency modules. They are also slightly overproduced. This is why. Landfill is your god here. This goes back to that first recipe we talked about here. 5 landfill, 1 automation science gives you out 6 landfill. These things are going about as fast as I can think to make them. In reality, you could probably do more. You want this block going however you design it, however you do it. You want it the first thing after smelting. I had it right here up until about 8 hours ago. You want it slammed here and just feeding resources. Just feeding them in. It's cheap. Where's 1,200? Oh, I pulled up. This one was, I think, 5,000. But yeah, you can see 2,400. And yeah, it's a cheap resource. Like, it doesn't even pull. And we're getting, that's already 300 landfill. You can do, where's my, there's, I have 2 small, so that's 28. I just add this one in, so 35 going. And I used to have another landfill working here, but that takes 20 stone, 20, what do we say, 35 going? That's 1.2 a second for each one of these little blocks. So that's 5. It takes 4 seconds to make 1 landfill. I'm pretty sure that's picked up 10 in the last second. So getting one of these going is priority numero uno. I slammed in a whole bunch of these speeds. In reality, you could just drop in more and more with energy efficient. I wanted to see how fast I could get this going. And these are freaking moving. And yeah, so I'm no longer space limited or landfill limited and therefore space limited. So getting that going early will save you so much time. Mine was trickling in because I had it at the back and then I moved it up to the front. I think that was my first 10 hours and glorious. So those are my suggestions. I absolutely love this mod. It was super fun. I really enjoy these there. Oh, now you're crossing me. I really enjoy these space limited maps. As you can tell, I don't really build to ratios. I don't really plan ahead too well. And I don't feel like pulling everything up just to make things prettier. Actually, I pulled all of this up. This was just god awful, super slow, was not getting me enough resources. This, I feel like 7, maybe 9 is a good number, but no more than that because it was, one was just not doing anything. But yeah, I would definitely give this a high rating. I would suggest trying it out if you like Space Limited, if you want a different approach, if you want to trickle, if you're somebody who's doesn't have time. If you're often like, well, I don't want to be biter limited. I have to fight biters, but I need to go cook dinner, or I can only be on for an hour. This is fine because you know what? You come in, you set things up, you can walk away. There was several times I actually cooked dinner while this was running. Came back and be like, oh, now I can go drop down 200 landfill, put in a new build, go troubleshoot with my horrible designs. Yes, I know they're flashing. It triggers me a lot, but we want yellow in. So yeah, I would suggest trying it out. Super fun. Absolutely loved it. Yeah. Have fun, y'all, and see you later.